that's an interesting point as about getting exiting companies. People often do stuff like when they come in, they want to do a deal, as you said earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. But then they don't think it's suddenly, oh, they've done a deal, and now what kind of attitude? Because they haven't thought of the next step. I find with those people, again, if you profile them, you can normally move them sideways or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
job titles are a really weird thing for me. Look, call me whatever you like. I don't really care. I go and do my job, do what I like doing best. And I think that's what's more important. It is funny because you see it all the time with business owners. The minute you start getting down to the dollars and the cents, you can see the whole mindset changes. Now, they may well have walked into the conversation believing what they were saying, but when the chips are down, the whole thing changes.
Hello, and welcome to the How to Exit podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling.
And now a moment for our sponsors. Sponsored by DoDealio. Looking to buy or sell a business? Assembling the right team is essential for success, and that's where DoDealio comes in. DoDealio is the go-to platform for hiring top M&A service providers, including attorneys, deal advisors, and due diligence experts. With a network of over 250 highly vetted professionals and boutique firms, they connect you with the expert you need for a seamless M&A journey. Whether you're acquiring your first business, growing your portfolio, or preparing for a sale, DoDealio makes building your deal team easy and efficient. And best of all, their matching service is completely free. Visit DoDealio.com and assemble your winning team today. I want to highly recommend you get Acquisition Aficionado magazine. Every month, Acquisition Aficionado magazine brings you tactics for business buying and selling you won't find anywhere else. Learn firsthand from industry leaders who share their success stories, featuring in-depth interviews and stories from leading figures in the business acquisition industry. This multi-platform mobile magazine speaks to acquisition entrepreneurs wherever they are in the journey. And I want you to visit acquisitionaficionado.com today. Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Rob Richmond. He is the strategic advisor. He's a deal maker. He's the founder of Synergy Groups and starting to consider you a longtime friend. We've known each other for a couple of years now. We've never been in the same room because you're on another continent, but we attend a lot of the same meetings and hangouts and brainstorm, solutions for ourselves and other people for quite a while now. So thank you for coming on the show. And I think we've been planning this for a bit, haven't we?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on the show. It definitely has been a while, so sorry to have kept it so long.
No.
Useful content.
It's good that you're a busy man. It's good. If I bring on too many people that aren't that busy, then the show gets real boring real fast. Because if you're not busy in this industry, especially in this day and time, you're probably not doing enough work or doing enough deals to be interesting at all. And that's not the case with you. I know you're extremely busy. You got a lot of stuff going on. Deals are getting done. You got a unique strategy about how you're going about doing deals, and we'll talk about that today.
Yeah, sure. We got a number of different deal strategies that seem to be working. One is that we have a different way of doing vendor finance, and the other one is that we're doing virtual rollups as well as traditional rollups. And that's really I've never been so busy. I've been in with the number of years, and we're literally doing a deal every week this year, and there's no sign of it slowing down. In fact, I've just been sending out some more agreements. So yeah, it's unbelievably busy at the moment. And I think a lot of it is business owners, especially in the UK, but we're still seeing it in the US and Australia as well. And I think down to politics more than anything else in the UK, because one, we got a bad budget just gone, and we got no one heading our way, and we got a particularly useless prime minister. But anyway, I shouldn't get into politics.
Yeah, I try not to talk about politics too much here on the show. I'm a big believer that both sides are corrupt, right? You got the right wing and the left wing, and they're both wings of the same nasty old buzzard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll just skip that topic and move on.
Yeah, we'll skip that one altogether. All right, let's do a little bit of origin story so people kind of know who you are, where you come from, and how you got into the space of buying and selling companies. So how did you get started in this?
Yeah, I mean, do you want how far back when we go? So, how I got into it? I'll just give you a quick run. Yeah, back in the 90s, I started one of the very first backbone provider, internet service providers in the UK. Scaled it over the next 24 months kind of thing, up to around 100 odd staff in the UK. Then I did the same in Australia to about 60 staff. I then bought a couple of companies, £1 down. Didn't actually know what I was doing, to be honest. It was someone gave me some advice and I kind of bought those companies. In 2006, I was offered exit twice. I should have taken it. It was a lot of money at the time. Then we had the dot-com crash and then we had the financial crash. 2013, I exited. I helped enough and people asked me how I did it. So I didn't realize I'd done anything in particular. So I just helped people exit their company between 2013 and 19. And I've been in M&A ever since. Basically.
We have a similar background. I worked in the internet service provider space for quite a while there, a few years. Cable modem internet service, where people would get internet through their cable modem systems. First at a company that probably nobody knows because it was small, called ISP Channel. Then I was senior director of operations for Excite.com when Excite was head to head with Yahoo, and Excite at home. At home did the cable modem internet service provider side, but I worked on the portal side where they had about 147, I think, products. Everything from email to news to weather and all that stuff on one big portal like Yahoo used to be. So we were head to head with Yahoo when Google was still a college kid's dream.
Yeah. Everybody thought Yahoo was undefeatable at 800 million turnover. I remember saying that one year that they were doing 800 million turnover and everybody went, wow, they're going to be the first $1 billion companies and then Google. And quite far from easily.
Now we're in this mergers and acquisition space. We're buying companies, we're helping them grow and helping them exit. Your strategy tends to be a little different than some of the other guys. You've perfected it or modified it to where it really works well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I came into M&A and I kind of went for the £1 deal and kind of got stuck then and forgot to go through the different variations. Normally, people do £1 deals on distressed companies, and I do it on companies of any size, any type, because I just use that as a point of entry. And rather than it's basically get the owner to be the bank, to cut the long story short. And the way I position is, I say, like, it's very simple. And you want $1 million up front, just hypothetically. You want $1 million up front? Fine, I can go to the bank. It's going to cost me $100,000 a year, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I would, over a 3-year period, that's $300,000. It's something that a lot of deal makers forget to do, actually, work in the interest when they actually go to payment, working out what they actually paid for a business. Then all I say to them is, look, rather than pay the bank the $300,000, I'd rather pay it to you. So you be the bank. And it's surprisingly, when you frame it in a certain way, which is what we do, it works. It's worked very well for me over the last 5 or 6 years. And the other thing we do is the way we do the deferred consideration is we never do more than 50-60% of EBIT. So that way we know it's sustainable, because that's something that most of the deal makers I've worked with over the years, they tend to over leverage if they're not careful. So that's why we do that. That's when we're doing a buyout, but we do a lot more WIBOs now. Never used to do them. I used to avoid them like the plague, but now I've got the model and where we're grouping, and that's going absolutely crazy at the moment.
So people not in our circle, a WIBO is a work-in-buyout. That model is intriguing, to work your way in and do a buyout. The risk that I see, and I'm working on one right now, so hopefully it doesn't, it doesn't happen. We don't have any inked yet, but one of the risks I see on some of these things is getting paid, right? So if you do a WIBO and you make an agreement with a business owner, like, look, I'll help you fix all this stuff. I get equity and maybe a little bit of a stipend along the way, depending on, how people negotiate it. If they never sell that equity, this isn't a publicly traded company where you can have liquidity in your equity.
Spot on. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly why we do our model the way we do it. People get so obsessed with, like, oh, I got to take equity. We're sod all until we can sell it and sell it. And like you rightly said, SMEs, you can't sell the stock. So for me, it's the wrong way of doing it. So the way we set up our WIBOs are quite different. First of all, we bill them on day one. So if they don't, we say it's due on day one, so we get paid up front before we've even started. The other thing we do is I very specifically set out value adds, because something that I noticed it's only from my perspective, that people do is they tend to M&A in our network. You know this full well. People go to I want, and no value add. So we flip the table, and now we do value add. And then we go, right, okay, how can we stage that value add? Just, you're totally right. We did that from one deal a few years ago where we crunched everything in like for about 6 week period. We did some great stuff for the guy. I mean, the guy had phoned me up and he was in tears during COVID that he's going to lose everything, his house. And we fixed it in 6 weeks. And then we were going to go to the next stage. And we sat in the boardroom, and his son came up to me and goes, you know what? You're wasting our time here. My dad can do all this on his own. He doesn't need you. We want you to leave. And I didn't contradict the son or the father, because for me, I don't see any point in pushing a stone uphill. Don't want to work with me? Fine, I'll go. But the point is the dad didn't have the balls to step up and say that, you know, he was on his knees begging for us. But you're right, you shouldn't do it all in one go. So what we do is we deliberately stage it over a period of time. So there's value add each month. We start off by doing a business assessment so that they can clearly see where they are. And then we have those value adds, and every quarter we review it and say, this is where you were, this is where you are. So they can see the value add that we're bringing to the table every time. So the point is I want them to pay me because they want me to come through the door, not because they go, oh, there's another bill.
Yeah, they want you to come back and continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. So that's the biggest part for me.
Yeah, it looks like you do you take a role at the company? Do you take an operation role? Or are you a strategic advisor? What is the position that you're? Are you taking a board seat? I mean, how do you structure these type of deals?
So we go in as board advisors, because then that enables us to leverage that on social media, so that people can see you've got that credibility in the space. It also enables the business owner to have the board they can't afford. And because I've got quite a few partners, what we can also do is we have this collaborative kind of mindset where, and that's something I encourage with business owners as well. What we do is we say, look, you've got 2 or more JV partners. Well, they don't know that, board advisors that come in. And then what we can do is we can top it up, and you can pick from our other partners who you would like on your board. It's not going to cost you another penny, because then that person who's up one of our board can now put it on their social, LinkedIn or whatever, and it gives them credibility to go and do deals in that space within the group they build. So what we do is we normally have a platform company, we put them in, and then we bring all the companies into an incubator, get them ready. They're ready to be acquired, and then the top co, or they're all going for an exit. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. We've got a number of different ways, but it's about value add and their journey, not what we want. We're going to build it in anyway.
And a lot of people miss that, or a lot of people come in and they're out there trying to get a deal done. They're trying to get deal flow going. And as soon as they get a business on the phone, they start telling the business owner all the stuff they can do for them, instead of trying to really figure out what the business needs and what the business owner wants or thinks he needs, and delivering that first. Right.
I mean, 3 weeks ago, I was asked to drop on a deal and help somebody else. And I met the guy first on Thursday. We closed the deal on Tuesday, and we closed the deal on Thursday. And even though he'd spoken to the business owner a couple of times beforehand, he didn't really dial in to the guy and find out what the reason why he was going to sell, what were the pain points in the business, what was right and wrong with the business for that matter. So one of the things I find that business owners are particularly bad at is profiling their staff. When they go in, I like to profile all the staff, because what you tend to find in business, and this is my experience, so it might be different for other people, is that when you come into a business, when you're employing people into a business, you put a job description up, and that person's coming purely for that job description. 9 out of 10 times, you don't know what else that person can do. So this particular company I just mentioned didn't have a sales team, and they desperately needed some sales and marketing. So I said, have you profiled the staff? He goes, no. So we did that. and found one guy that was particularly good at sales. He's absolutely brilliant. You put him on sales. I helped him out because that's my background, as I mentioned him. And now he's flying. So now they've got a sales team. They haven't had to employ anyone. They just redeployed someone who knows the industry anyway, and now is naturally a salesperson.
Yeah, so it's interesting is it's very common when you look at these businesses that they've got the wrong butts in the wrong seats,
Yeah.
right? And it may not be that you have to let anybody go. It may not be that you have to hire anybody, but like what you did is you looked around and go, what is everybody's core skill set? What do they want to do, right? A lot of times it's like if somebody's really motivated, even if they don't have this core skill set, if you give them a little training and stuff, they'll be a better employee at that than they would at anything. I had an executive administrator, a secretary, I hate that word, but she was an admin assistant, right? For years, when I hired her, one of the first things that we talked about, I hired her from a shoe place. So I walked in to get a pair of sneakers once, and this lady was she was dealing with a really horrible customer. The guy was just being just rude and hateful, and she handled it really well, and then provided excellent customer service to me. Paid attention to a kid trying to steal something, and like she had everything. She was juggling like an octopus. She had just like her hands. She was the only one at the store at the time. And I said to her, what are you doing here? How much do you make? What do you want to do? And when she said that she wanted to learn how to program, I said, why don't you come work for me? Or, the only spot I have right now is an executive admin spot, which means you would help me. I've got 187 employees underneath me, 7 managers, and it's like juggling. Like I already have one admin assistant, but I have a open spot for a second one. And I want you to help me juggle all these people, just like you're doing here. Just these are a bunch of prima donna, computer engineers who like their special attention. But she did really good at it. Within a few weeks of her being there, I had one of the engineers start teaching her how to program. And, I used to joke all the time, said the best employees aren't hired, they're stolen, right? They already have a job somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times it's within your own company. They're just in the wrong butts in the wrong seats. The other thing that I've seen, and I'm curious what you see, sometimes people keep people around they shouldn't.
Yeah. I find with those people, again, if you profile them, you can normally move them sideways or something like that. And job titles are a really weird thing for me. Call me whatever you like. I don't really care. I go and do my job, do what I like doing best. And I think that's what's more important. When you get the right culture, we were in the company the other day and I liked the way he did it. He said, look, I empower my staff to make mistakes. You hear it in some of the top companies in the world, but he does it in his small company. And he says, look, if you make a mistake, go and do whatever you want. But as long as it's with the intent of helping the company, and then if you make a mistake, just come and tell me and we'll fix it. But then don't do it again kind of attitude. I think that's a great attitude to pass down through your staff because they had a flood a few weeks ago and he came back in and he said the floor was repainted. They've just taken it on themselves because they all work for the better of the company. And if you've got that mindset and a cultural mindset, is brilliant and to work in that job. And going back to what you were saying about that, that family member or whatever it is left in a business. I think if you profile that person and say, because sometimes they don't even want to be there. They're just being there because they don't know what else to do. So you find out what they're really good at and move them accordingly. And if you're building a group, there's great ways to move them around the group and then they're out of that company and they might be in a much better space. When we're doing succession planning, that we try and move members of the family to the board and away from the working and day-to-day operations. So we say, look, there's 4 levels of entrepreneur journey. One, you're up one man person bands. Then you're like employing a few staff, and then you're the direct, CEO. You've got managers, and then you've got staff. And then the final one is you become the business investor board member, whatever you like to be. And then you've got passive income. So now the company's working for you, not you for the company. That's the ultimate place to be. And that's what we say to them. And we encourage all of everyone to move up to that place so that we can get the job done properly. Because sometimes you get people in the business, but they tend to be complacent with where they are.
One of the things I've seen about salespeople, and it's held true for time and time again. It may not be true universally, but time and time again, when I'm looking at salespeople or looking at staff, is to figure out what's the highest level they've ever been there. So if I'm looking at like for sales guys and I say, what's the most you've ever made in a sales role in a company? And let's just say the guy tells me, well, the last 3 companies I did about $200,000 a year. I know for a fact that even if I'm paying him a base of 8, he'll fight tooth, nail, and claw his way with his fingernails through glass to get to 200,000 because that's his comfort zone. But I also can almost promise that he'll shut down right afterwards and be on easy glide mode because that's where his comfort zone is. That he has the human beings as a nature, we have a sense of self-worth, and we'll demand that in any of ourselves and others till we get there. But to get somebody to push them past that, you almost have to go out and find somebody that has that $500,000 self-worth, right?
We live within. Well, we don't tend to live with our own means. We tend to live above our means, but definitely people have. I love it when people say they're not motivated by money. We got a really funny one at the moment. You've heard this a million times probably. The business owner says, "I'm not a greedy man, and I care about my staff." Yeah. So this was when we first met him. We put the offer in, and we took care of those 2 elements very carefully when we did the deal. When we did the proposal. The funny thing about it is he came back with a counter proposal and he said, "No, I want all the money up front. And if you don't pay me all the money up front, then I'm just going to close the company and pay what's there." I go, "Well, that's interesting. That's a guy who isn't greedy and cares about his staff is willing to close the company and wants all the money up front." So it's interesting how people switch so easily.
I find that in the first 30 seconds, if somebody tells me who they are, they're usually the exact opposite, right? Yeah. The biggest red flag you can say to me is, "Trust me, I'm this religion or that religious. Trust me, I'm a Christian." I was like, okay, I don't trust you at all now, right? Why would you ever pitch me on that to start with, right?
Yes.
Or I'm not greedy and I care about my staff. If that's the first thing you tell me in the first 5 minutes of conversation, it's highly suspect, right?
Yeah, but it's like that sentence, "to be honest," or
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be straight with you and tell you this. That means that everything you said beforehand is a load of rubbish.
Right. But usually what I found is like, it'll vet itself out. But more often than not, in my mind, I've seen that when somebody says, "To be straight with you, I'm not greedy," just to be honest with you or whatever, they lead with something like that. And then they go, "I'm not greedy and I care about my employees." I almost automatically assume that that's the one lie. Why did you pre-sell something? Usually when somebody pre-sells something as the truth, it's because maybe that's what they want you to believe, or maybe even that's what they want to believe of themselves, but they know it at some level to be untrue. So.
Yeah, it is funny because you see it all the time with business owners. The minute you start getting down to the dollars and the cents, you can see the whole mindset changes. Now, they may well have walked into the conversation believing what they were saying, but when the chips are down, the whole thing changes.
We have one right now where the lady's like, "I want $3 million for my business and $2 million for my real estate." And I'm like, I want to win the lottery, but every time I buy that stupid $2 ticket, I have not done it yet. But I wasn't even on the phone call. I'm like a third-party advisor to this call. But that's what comes to my mind when somebody says, "I want X and I want Z." And you're like, we haven't even talked about what you have or how much money you're making yet. So yeah, sounds great until, sure, let's see how we can get you there. That's usually my knee-jerk reaction when somebody starts giving me numbers early on in the conversation. Is that if I don't know what your business is worth, I don't know, heck, maybe you're making $100 million a year and all you want is $1 million. Let's get you there, right? Or you're making $5 a year and you want $1 million for your business. Well, cool. I can show you how to get there, right? It's not going to be easy and you got a lot of work, and I'm not interested in helping you, but I'll give you a roadmap real quick. You need to do X, Y, and Z, So my universal answer a lot of times is, cool, let's see how we can get you there.
Yeah, I do the same. I mean, it's surprising how often business owners have an overinflated price in their head about what their company's worth. But what I do like doing is exactly like you. Say, okay, fine, say it's worth $500,000 and they want $1 million. We've now got a very clear explanation about how we break down the valuation. So they can take it to anyone. It's as good as any valuation you're going to get done from an accountant because it explains out all the the different elements. So we send that to them, and then we say, okay, now we're not disputing the asking price, we're just disputing the value at the moment. This is what it's worth, kind of thing. Then it's how do we get you there? And going back to what I was saying earlier, vendor finance is the easiest way by far, because you can breach that gap so easy with vendor finance. The other side about vendor finance that people often forget, and when they're buying a company, so say you buy a company for $1 million, it often costs you, by the time you've done the interest and everything, you're probably looking at somewhere between 1.3 and 1.6. So people say to me, oh, you've overpaid for a company. Go, hang on a sec, add yours up. You paid 1.6 for it. You paid for well over the odds for the company. I think there's a lot of things that people don't take into account. We're getting back to where I was going with that. Business owners don't take into account the tax that they're going to have off the back end of selling the company. So if you now incorporate vendor finance into it, that will wipe out the tax. So now they get to take home the money. So we were doing one the other day, and it was for a £6 million pounds company. And he said, oh, I want £6 million, not a penny less, kind of thing. I said, there's a matter of interest. Do you know how much money you can have in your bank at the end of the day? He goes, 6 million. He was convinced he was going to get 6 million. And then I said, no, you have to pay tax. And he went, oh, he genuinely didn't know. And I said, well, got a crap accountant for the start who didn't give him any, or whoever he's getting his advisory on. And anyway, so broke it down. The UK, for the first million, you paid 10%. Well, very shortly it'll be 14, but just go with the old one. So 10% for the first million, then 20% the next 5 million. So that's 1.1 million. When I told him that, he had almost a heart attack. He said, I'm going to pay the tax now, 1.1 million. And he goes, but what I can do is I can show you how to get 6 million in your bank account. So he's like, okay, how do we do that? I said, forget about the asking price. Let's concentrate on what you get in your bank. And that's actually has got me more deals than actually worrying about the pound down or the dollar down or the deferred consideration. If you actually start to focus on what they're going to have in their bank account at the end of the day, they start to look at the deal in a totally different way.
I like that. I like that along the lines with, I've interviewed everybody. We both have a relationship and know Jeremy Harvard, but Carl Allen has this phrase where he coined it an annuity deal. And people just get that, right? Like instead of seller finance or I'm going to pay you over time or you're financing the deal, he calls it an annuity deal because especially here in the United States, business owners understand what an annuity is, right? So, and it's like, look, I love the idea. Like, instead of concentrating on the sales price, let's concentrate on what you end up with in your bank account. I use something similar when I was in the real estate space all the time. People would say, well, you overpaid for that house. I was like, yeah, no, I didn't. Like, I own or financed the house. You said, this street value is, you would have paid $100,000. You would have taken it to your bank. They'd have charged you 7.5% to 8% for a real estate loan. And by the time you pay that off in 30 years, you'd have paid in $200,000 or $300,000. I paid $125,000. I pay him every month, and I don't pay zero interest on it. Right? Who paid more for the house at the end of the game?
Exactly. Well, see if you agree with me on this one. If you were to describe businesses as in a street of houses, it would be one of the worst neighborhoods in town because 99% of companies are an absolute show. Yeah, I won't say the other word, but
they definitely need a remodel.
Yeah, that's the one. And I would say that one house in every street would actually be ready to buy, right? So, So here's another argument, and this is what I often say to different people that I work with. I say, look, if I give you $1 million and say, go out and buy a business, you're going to buy one of those ugly houses kind of thing, right? However, if you go through our synergy group, so we do all the different things, we do the incubator, we get it all set up, it's all ready to go. It's basically a private equity level by the time we finish. Now I send to you, here's the business, it's a passive income. You don't need to work in the business. All the management teams there, system processes, everything's in place, but it's going to cost you $1.5 million. Which one would you buy?
Buy the one that has systems and processes that are cleaner, right? So
exactly. So this is where that's the value add that we give to business owners, and that's how we get them from that $500,000 stage to $1 million and whatever it is that we're trying to do. Also make that money in their bank account real rather than the tax man taking home.
Sounds like you guys have developed a system or a framework that you can apply to multiple businesses across different industries.
Yeah, we've got, we're just about to launch a whole load of groups. So we're doing something different. We're doing social proof. So we're actually putting our groups out there to the public, and the platform company owner will go on a webinar with us and actually get out there and show what we're doing. So we've got one on the 25th of Feb. That's invites only. And then on the 14th of March and throughout the rest of the year, we've got groups in different sectors from around the world. And yeah, we're really excited about it. And yeah,
Are you inviting these business owners into, like, you're just coaching them and selling their business? Or I already know the answer to this because I know you, but for the audience sake, I'm building this up. Or are you bringing them into something where you're putting them in a roll-up structure where you're getting the leverage in multiple companies coming in?
yeah, we actually both. We can do either. So we can either acquire them from day one if they want a quick exit, or we can roll them up, or we can build them up and roll them up. Yeah, so we can basically make them all nice and shiny. We just roll them up.
I see something in here in the notes here from you that's calling the opportunity value framework. What is that?
Yeah, opportunity value is something that I particularly like doing when I go into companies. It's finding those because quite often you get business owners going, I run a tight ship here. I don't leave any money on the table. And that's like red rag to a ball to me. I just love going in and finding it just to not there to prove a point, but that's where I know I can add money to the value of the company and have a benefit to me. An example of it was we were talking to a construction company did fires, flood, and subsidence damage insurance work, basically. And he said to me, I don't leave any money on the table. It's all ready to go. And I went, right, then can I sit down with you and go through the process? So he says, yeah, we go in and there's been a flood. We take out the windows, the doors, the conservatory, do all the carpets, the furniture. I said, well, hang on a sec. You're only a construction company. Who does the rest? He goes, well, about $1.5 million goes out to double glazing, conservatories and like that. So I went into Cardiff, which was about 30 miles away from this particular company, found a company that was double glazing and up for sale. And I said, look, if I add $1.5 million to your top line, can I buy your company? He went, yes. So we did a back-to-back deal like that. So we leverage one company to get another, but that's that opportunity value. So for me, that's part of what it is, trying to find those leverage points in a business that people often miss. And they're very obvious in the accounts. You'll see big amounts. And I go, right, okay, what are you spending that on? And that's the target. So it's either an acquisition target, and it can be the start of the fence.
Unfortunately, that's a space I know very well because I used to own a real estate investment firm in Oklahoma where pipes break and freeze during the winter. And I've had more than one house flood because of it, right? And, a lot of times we've had to do as much as move the central heat and air from the floor to the attic because it got flooded and frozen out, and carpet replaced, sheetrock up about. A lot of people don't know if sheetrock's not installed right, it wicks the water up into the wall, so you have to replace the sheetrock up for the first 2 or 3 feet. I can see a lot of industry that would touch that company that you could. And your sheetrocker has to be a master sheetrocker because you don't want to take the whole wall down. So you have to be able to seam that to where it doesn't show, right?
That's why, going back to your earlier point, it's really important when you go into a company and talking to a business owner to really understand it. And on that note, you don't have to have industry knowledge. You just got to ask questions. Like we've got companies in all different industries. I don't have any knowledge of the industry at all. In fact, to tell the business owner, it's an advantage if I don't know your industry because I will see things that you don't. And besides, I'm not going to be running the companies, and that makes it very easy for me to be a board advisor and not operationally involved because I say I don't know the industry.
I tell people that too. I said, I'm insanely curious, and it's to your advantage if I don't know your industry very well because I'll want to know it, and I'll deep dive into it. If I already know it, then I have somebody that we all have different things. We all have cognitive biases. We think we know certain things a certain way. And if you know an industry really well, it's almost unstoppable to have some of those cognitive biases where you think, well, this is just how this works, right? Where if you don't know the industry and you don't know any better, then you can just jump in and try new things and stuff that, one of my favorite things to do, and I used to do this when I owned my real estate investment company and everything else, is go listen to other entrepreneurs and what they're trying because you can come back and apply that to your industry. So when I owned my real estate investment firm, every Wednesday I'd go listen to the thing they used to call the first 1 million cups here in the United States. It was owned by, I think it was a Kaiser Foundation or something that funded it. But basically, it was entrepreneurs would stand up and pitch their business idea in front of 40 or 50 of us. They got like 2 or 3 minutes to do it, and then we had 5 or 6 minutes to give them constructive feedback. But to see their passion and to see the ideas they come up with, and then you're sitting there, you're helping them, you're like giving them advice, and it clicks in your hand. I should be doing that too, right? Like I've given this guy advice I know should be done, but I'm not doing that at my company back at the office. I need to go fix that, right? So there's a thing, out of category or out of topic that really, I think, lends to creativity and lends to being able to solve problems that the business owner would just think that that's just the way we've always done it.
Yeah, I think that's a slight segue off, but when you partner with someone, when we partner with business owners to go and acquire other businesses, or we daily with people to acquire business.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I think that's, I made a mistake with doing that, but now I look at it a slightly different way. And that's when you go on, you meet somebody, they're in the same industry as you, and you think, oh, you make a great JV partner. Actually, they're the people I now avoid. And I don't mean it in a nasty way, because if they've got similar skill set to you or similar knowledge within an industry, and the worst person you can have as a JV partner is actually, you want to be like, right, you're great at accounts, I'm great at whatever it is that you're great at, and you want to be actual opposites, if anything, so that way you complement one another, not be like a married couple kind of thing, because it doesn't work.
I always look to see who's the idea guy, who's the guy who's a visionary, who comes up with ideas and wants to try new things all the time, and who's the implementer, who's the guy that just the operator that gets stuff done on a day-to-day basis. Because every great business I've ever seen that's succeeding, I can within the first, if I get to know the business a little bit, within the first probably 15 minutes, I can tell you that's the idea guy and this person over here is the operator. And a lot of times the operator may not be in a position of power. It might be the office administrator or whatever, but somebody there is making sure the gears turn on a day-to-day basis. I am the visionary guy. I'll come up with ideas and stuff like that. But if you ask me to do the same repetitive task day in and day out, I'll just drop the ball, right? If I can't outsource it, get somebody else to do it, that's just not the way I'm wired. I'm too ADHD, I guess. I want the new problem, the new solution, the new, this hasn't been done before. How do we solve it? And I have a real hard time just turning the wheel of the gears, right?
Shining you things similar. You got the same one as me. I'm shocked for it. Yeah.
It's beautiful because of this industry, we get to play with all kinds of stuff, right? Everything I look at is different. This is if you've got ADHD out there in the world and you're creative and you got a little bit of a business acumen, this is the space to be in, because everything you touch is going to be new and different and exciting. And then as soon as it's up and running, you should have an operator in there running it anyway, right?
Yeah, get rid of it fast.
Fast, yeah, sell it off.
Well, that's an interesting point about getting exiting companies. People often do stuff like when they come in, they want to do a deal, as you said earlier, and that's fine. But then they don't think it's suddenly, oh, they've done a deal, and now what kind of attitude? Because they haven't thought of the next step. And you tend to find that all the way. And the biggest one I find is, it's like, I bought the company, I'm fix it up. Now how do I exit? So on that note, we found a really easy way to exit company. You could sell it this afternoon, every single time, right? Management buyout is fine. It's my go-to strategy. I just go, fine, I've built a passive income. So I've got to level 4 in a business, for argument's sake. And now all I do is I implement a management buyout. And it's by far the easiest way to get out. It's the quickest way. And you can police it, because you can literally do your own, my deal structure, or whatever deal structure you want, where it's 100% deferred. And you just release the shares as you go along. They pay you, release the shares. And great way to get out. And it's sold the same day.
Yeah. And as long as you've got the management structure in place, which you would have done anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've actually started down this path once before, and I kind of set it down because I got brought in as helping some other people do some stuff. But I think there's a play both in the U.S. and probably in other, I don't know how the structure would be in your country, in the UK and other places. Here, it's called an ESOP, employee stock option thing.
Yeah.
It's a structured management buyout, but here
We have an EOC in the UK. It's very similar.
yeah, here there's huge tax advantages to it. So
Yeah.
and usually you need to be a decent sized company here for it. Like I'd say probably in the $5 to $10 million or above size company. Probably because you here in order to be an ESOP, you actually have to have a plan administrator, and they make about 80 grand. So on top of your operator, on top of your guy running the business and everything else, you need somebody who does that, and then you got their whole job is to run it. So somebody in the company is responsible for running the ESOP, and then by law here they have to have an annual review, like evaluation every year, and those can run 10 or 15,000. So you're looking at 90 grand a year, potentially 120 grand a year to be an ESOP.
I don't know what the minimum requirement is, but we have two ways you can do it in the UK. You can do a traditional management buyout, or you can do what's called an EOT. Can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's basically a employee ownership trust. They are.
Yeah.
So that it works pretty much the same way you just mentioned, but I don't think there's a minimum requirement. That said, I don't know if you found this, but I deliberately now stay above $500,000 equal, because the bigger the company, the bigger the mindset of the owner, and the more flexible they are to doing different deal structures. Because if you go down to like a cafe, for argument's sake, it's got 100 grand EBIT or something like that, they tend to do this, and I don't know if it's the same in the US, but they do in the UK. They go, right, it's a multiple of EBIT plus assets minus liabilities, and then they'll say plus goodwill, and suddenly this word goodwill turns up. When you get above 25 million, I very rarely hear the word goodwill anywhere, right? It does not exist, right? Yet the smaller the company, the bigger the goodwill goes, right? It's because they can't get the values of the company. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The goodwill is code for it's not worth what I want, so I gotta, my brand is worth this. Like your brand, like I've never heard of your company before. Your brand is like, well, everybody in this state knows this. It's the brand is worth X, Y, and Z. It's been in business for 60 years. Yeah, that's not exactly how this works, right? So,
yeah. And accountants are the worst at that level, because they will say, oh, it's this plus goodwill, and they'll stick their heels in. So I stopped dealing with companies that side, and I deliberately go now above 10 million, 5 to 10 million minimum, because it's just such an easier space to play in. The bigger you go, the much easier it is.
Interesting. The what else makes it for a good candidate for what you're doing, for the roll-up model, whatever? What are the criteria that you look for besides being $10 million in turnover, or is it EBIT?
Oh, the smallest group we've got going at the moment is a ski shop in Canada, which is $1 million turnover. Right, we're building a group around them. We've already found one partner, now we've built some others to go in that group. The largest one is multiples of where it's at. There's 50 million. We're talking to one that's 216. But me personally, I like between 10 to 50. That's a brilliant space to be in. The business owners tend to hit glass ceilings multiple times and they can't get through it. And then you go, right, okay, organic growth, inorganic growth, and opportunity value. That's basically what we offer them, those three ways of going through the glass ceiling. And they totally get it. And it's so much easier to have a conversation with them. And as long as they've got a roadmap of at least 2 years before they want to exit, then we can do it. So, 2 years, 10 to 50 million turnover, 5 to 50, let's go to that space. And any sector, we're literally covering lots of different sectors, everything from ski shops to civil engineering and everything in between.
Is there anything you guys just not interested in? They're like, there's any industries out there you just...
Yeah, if they're not making any money. That's
yeah. I'm in the mode right now, and if a year ago I wouldn't have told you this, but right now, if you've got a bunch of government contracts in the United States, I'm not interested, right? Because they're going to clean house on these government contracts for a while, and most government I come from that world, right? I'm prior military, prior defense contractor, worked for a couple of defense contractors before. I understand that almost every one of those contracts are bloated, right? They're
wow.
overpriced here in the
Yeah.
United States anyway. So I think there's a reckoning coming in that space. I was telling somebody the other day, I have a friend who does websites for the government. He just goes to one of the gov sites and bids on them, and he gets paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do something that some kid off Fiverr could do for $45, right? And I said his day is coming. I told him via Zoom call the other day. He's in another state. I said, "Yeah, are you feeling nervous?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've got a plan. I got a contingency plan. I've got this other thing I'm doing off to the side right now." So he's really, doing some other stuff, but he sees the writing on the wall too. So,
Yeah,
but
I
I
think
think
that's true in a lot of industries at the moment, because I think a lot of businesses got to their scale not by skill of the business owner, but by the way the economy's been growing consistently. Global economy, I'm talking about now,
Mhm.
um, for decades. So a lot of companies just happen to be in the right place at the right time and scaled with it. Because the minute you get like a big change in the economy, or like with AI coming into it, and that's an interesting one for me, you suddenly see that this business owner doesn't know the fundamentals of business. So they're like a fish out of water.
It reminds me a lot of having kids, right? My first kid slept through the night, did great. It was just a charm of a baby. It's like we're good at this parenting thing. We have our second one, and she's kept us. She's 9 now, red hair, blue eyed fireball of a little girl, and she's kept us on our toes the entire time, right? You got to watch this one, right? She's just full of life, always into stuff. Like I was kidding the other day. I was on a Zoom. It was a little over. It's like I got to cut this off. My son just went somewhere. My 9-year-old's in the house by herself, and if I don't pay attention, she'll paint the walls. Like she'll decide that she doesn't like the color of the house and change it for us.
Oh, nice.
I don't want to leave her in there, or she might burn it down. She might decide she's hungry and I'm busy and she's going to cook herself dinner. So I need to go inside and check on her. But the businesses are a little bit of the same way, right? The concept there is you can really take a look at something and go, this is easy, this is great, and then the company's running great when you realize it was the right time in the right place. And when things scramble, that's the real test. That's the real testament of a company, is when, like, companies that were founded during the Great Depression, companies that were founded during economic turmoil, and they're still around, those are usually more solid than, the companies that popped up during a boom, surfed in the giant wave, and then, they don't know how to act or react when things get tight.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, I find it interesting how many people go, "Oh, this company's been around for 20 years, 40 years, whatever it is." And I go, "Yeah, that's great." You do realize that statistically it's not going to be around for much longer. And they go, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, normally, if you have a look at the stats, it's quite amazing. And there's a very good reason for it. The first 2 years is the big peril years when you first start up a company. And then I think it's every 20 or 25 years, there's a potential for it to die. And that's because of generational changeover. Now, if you started a company young and you got to say 20 and you got to 60, then you've got the 40-year one. So it's still fall within the 20 and 40, 20, 40, 60 kind of thing. But somewhere along those lines, a company will go through basically like a startup threat that it will fall on its ass. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we had companies that were so good, how come we haven't got companies that are hundreds of years old? There's only one or two of them.
Yeah.
If it was so easy to run a company generationally and things like that, we would have thousands of them. But
Well, they say there's a saying that says the first generation builds it, the second generation runs it, and the third generation runs it, right?
into the ground.
So yeah, runs it right into the ground. The second generation typically maintains it or slightly grows it, and then the third generation. So somebody says we're a third generation company, is like, yeah, that doesn't prove anything. Show me a fourth generation company. Like, show me you made it through the hump, right? You've got your systems and processes down so much that you're on your fourth or fifth generation. Then I'll be impressed. But that's what happened to that one I was telling you about earlier. They were on their third generation. Granddad or whatever built it. Granddad ran it, or sorry, Granddad built it. Dad ran it. They're running it into the ground. They're destroying it, right? It was a nurse and a I don't know what she was before. She was trying to be a bookkeeper, right? Trying to run an industrial company, and they had no business doing it and didn't bring in the people that could.
Yeah, it's about having the right people and the right processes, isn't it? If you've got those, then you've got a good chance of it surviving for a certain amount of time. But the minute those people leave or retire or whatever they do, then you've got to find the same caliber of people to put back in their seat. But also, if you don't keep innovating, that's another thing that I find businesses are terrible at doing. They don't keep innovating all the time. You've got to conflict. I mean, if you're not improving the business, your competitor is, and you're going behind. So even if you say, "Oh, everything works fine in this business, I'm happy," everyone else around you is moving every day. There's new people coming into the market. The market's changing. The economy's changing. Whatever, likes and dislikes are changing. So you have to keep innovating. You find, like, one of my business partners and I bought a double glazing company during COVID. And I was just, we didn't see it, obviously. Paid a pound for it and $1.50, I think, whatever it is. And so went down there and I was absolutely amazed at what was there. You know, the old tea cards. Now, there's nothing wrong with tea cards and things like that, but across a whole wall, it did all of its work through these tea cards. And underneath it had all the folders, customer folders, and tracked them along. So it did have a system. The most disturbing part of that was, as you turn around, there's an office full of computers that had never been turned on, and they were 486s. This is in 2022, right? They'd never been turned on. And we asked them, and they said, well, we didn't know how to use it. So nobody had actually, because back then, computers weren't a big thing. And most of the staff had been there 30 years. So they innovated and bought the stuff.
I walked through a industrial machinist type of company that I was interested in. They were doing $6.5 million EBITDA. Bigger company. They had defense contractors, they had all kinds of stuff. And I had just happened to go to Rotary International as a Rotarian with the guy's brother-in-law or something. So he hears that I buy his companies. He invited me to do a walkthrough. Kind of wanted to figure out what I wanted, what his business would be worth and who I'd know. He didn't think I was a buyer, and I didn't know if I was or not at this stage. But anyway, we go through this business, and everything looks great. And I said, do you mind if I take a look at your books so we can see what you're worth? He said, great, go ahead. Let's go in here. And he goes, slings open this big door, double door, like old, like kind of army green painted metal doors that open up into this room. And it's like, we walk into this room, and it has low shag carpet, like that 1/2-inch carpet, and it's kind of like 70s look and feel, and it has green filing cabinets, 360 degrees around. And I'm like, what are we doing in here? And he starts pulling out these green books, right? And if you know what the 60s and 70s accounting looked like, there were these green notebooks that were, the lines on them were made for account keeping. And I thought, oh no. But when he started pulling stuff out, I tell you, it was the cleanest set of books I'd ever seen in my life. He showed me balance statements and income statements in those books. He showed, well, here's one from the 70s. Here's one from 80s. Here's one from 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Everything was meticulous. Well, it turns out his wife was a CPA, and his mother-in-law, basically everybody, like in the business was running, at least one person in the family was in the accounting space. But it was the best set of books I'd ever seen. So I just called a buddy of mine. I said, hey, if I've got about 25, 30 years of paper books, how long would it take to send that stuff off somewhere and have it put into an accounting program? What would it cost us, right? I started calling around trying to figure out what is it going to cost to either box that stuff, ship it somewhere, and have them scan it and put it, because it wasn't something you would do in house.
Yeah.
Right. That was, if you wanted to keep all the records, you really only need the last 4 or 5 years technically to run it, right?
Yeah.
But if you wanted to preserve all that stuff, what would that cost per year? I had to break it down per year. What would it cost me per year to take really well done, books and put them into a computer somewhere? And then I looked around the office and I realized they still had the old phones you pick up and hit the big, you have the red light, the green light, like you had to push a button. Like, they still had old phones. There wasn't a computer on anybody's desk. I asked one of the sales guys, like, do they have computers on here? He goes, don't tell the boss I have a laptop on my bag. He's like, I'm the only one here that even knows how to use one. He's their top sales guy, right? But they did a great job. I mean, I've seen many QuickBooks that couldn't produce anything that looked anything like what he gave me. I'm not an accountant by nature, but because I have an MBA, that means I've had to take accounting 1 and 2 in my undergrad and accounting 1 and 2 in my master's degree, right? So I understand it a little bit, but the guy had the cleanest books I'd ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it is surprising what people do.
and it's just the company my father worked for years. I don't know if they've ever got off of it, but they still had big old, like last time I went through there 15 years ago, they still had big VAX machines that used that dot matrix printers, and their accounting looked like, on paper, it was 2 foot wide, and like that's what they did all their paperwork and accounting on, So I'm sure they've updated since then. I haven't been over there, since my father passed away 15 years ago, but 20 years ago now, 18 years ago. But that said, that doesn't make a bad company or a good company.
No.
I would have told you before, if you don't have great records, if you don't have your stuff in a computer, you got a bad company.
Yeah.
But after seeing how well they did their books on paper, good books are good books, bad books are bad books, whether they're on the computer or on paper or however they do it, if they've got their
100%.
documentation well. And they had systems and processes. He was big enough. I told him, he shouldn't go to a broker. He needs an investment banker because he's big enough that other people from other states would probably be interested in him. And it's a different process. When you get above about 5 million in EBITDA, you probably shouldn't be talking to your local broker. You probably need to talk to somebody that can put together a strategic buyer for you that's going to pay a lot more, larger multiple. So tell me a little bit about how do people reach you? How do they work with you? We're at the top of the hour here. So,
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so yeah, that went fast. So that's very good.
Yeah, I know.
So
I looked at the times like that can't be right.
yeah, exactly. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, or they can go to morewaysgroup.com and you can find out all about us on there. That's actually my main company. Synergy Groups is more of an initiative by Moreways. Yeah, you can find out bits about that, but feel free to reach out to me, and always happy to JV or help businesses out, really.
And you guys go everywhere, right? US, UK, Australia.
Yeah, we got
It doesn't
partners
matter
in
to you.
Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Dubai, and the UK and Ireland, and the European Union, of course.
Awesome. Well, we'll call that a show. Hang out for a few minutes so we can get the downloads and everything.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
We'll wrap this up.
Yeah, thanks.
This episode of How to Exit is brought to you by Final Ascent, the boutique M&A firm helping lower middle market business owners achieve their ultimate exit. At Final Ascent, they know selling your business is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make, and they've been in your shoes. Their team isn't just made of advisors. They're experienced business owners who have successfully navigated their own exits. Final Ascent specializes in preparing businesses for sale, building value, and connecting with a national network of qualified buyers who will compete for your business. They don't take on a client unless they're confident they can sell your business at the current market maximum value. Whether you're ready to sell now or planning for the future, they'll craft a roadmap tailored to your unique goals so that you can walk away with maximum value and a peace of mind. Start your journey today at Final Ascent. That's www.finalascent.com, because your next chapter starts with a successful exit.